Welcome to the Standing in the Gaps News Deep Dive. Like you, we are apolitical, neither left nor right, just diving into fascinating stories. And today we're tackling the incredible journey of Volodymyr Zelensky. You've probably seen the headlines, comedian turned president, wartime leader, but we're going beyond the surface to uncover the nuances of his story.
It's fascinating how Zelensky's path to leadership really challenges our assumptions about where presidents come from. It's not every day you see someone with a background in entertainment stepping into such a pivotal role, especially during a war.
Yeah, it really is a remarkable story. And to understand it, we need to go back to his roots. He co-founded a comedy group, Kvartal 95, back in 1997. But this wasn't just a small-time operation. They became a major production company. This already tells us something about Zelensky's ambition and drive.
Exactly. He wasn't just a funny guy on stage. He was a savvy businessman, understanding the power of media and connecting with audiences on a large scale. These skills honed in the entertainment industry proved surprisingly useful when he entered the political arena.
And then, of course, there's Servant of the People, the TV series where he played, ironically, a history teacher who becomes the president of Ukraine. Talk about foreshadowing. But it wasn't just the premise that was interesting. The show actually tackled real issues plaguing Ukraine, like corruption and political apathy.
Zelensky was using his platform to engage with these important societal issues, reflecting the very real frustrations of many Ukrainians. This suggests he already had a deep understanding of his nation's challenges long before entering politics.
And remember, this is a guy with a law degree. He could have pursued a very different career path, but clearly he felt a pull towards something bigger.
That legal background might have been more influential than people realize. Think about it. Law is all about understanding systems, interpreting complex information, and negotiating. Those skills are crucial for any leader, but especially in the high-stakes world of international politics.
So we've got this entertainer, businessman, and legal mind all rolled into one. Then in 2019, a new political party emerges in Ukraine, and it's named after his show. The Servant of the People Party resonated with Ukrainians who were tired of the old political establishment. It was like the plot of his show was coming to life.
And that's what's so fascinating about his story. It blurs the line between fiction and reality. He was able to tap into a very real desire for change, and his background in entertainment allowed him to communicate that message in a way that resonated deeply with the people.
He won the 2019 election by a landslide, 73.2% of the vote. Clearly, he struck a chord.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to understand why.
This victory wasn't just about him as an individual. It reflected a deep-seated desire for change within Ukraine. People saw him as an outsider, untainted by the corruption that had plagued previous administrations. He represented a fresh start, a break from the past.
But this fresh start would soon be faced with an unprecedented challenge. February 24th, 2022 marks a turning point, not just for Zelensky's presidency, but for Europe as a whole. This is the day Russia invades. And it's here that Zelensky's story takes on a whole new dimension.
It's crucial to remember the historical context here. The conflict between Ukraine and Russia didn't begin in 2022. It dates back to 2014 with the annexation of Crimea and the war in the Donbas region. This invasion marked a significant escalation, a full-blown war that shocked the world.
And Zelensky's response was immediate. He declared martial law, mobilized the country, and refused to flee Kiev despite the immense danger. Think about that for a second. He could have easily sought safety elsewhere, but he chose to stay.
That decision in those first few days of the invasion was a defining moment. It sent a powerful message to his people and to the world. He wasn't going to abandon his country. He would stand with them, fight with them, and face the same risks. That kind of courage is difficult to ignore. And it wasn't just about physical presence. Iconic video addresses, often filmed on his phone with the sounds of explosions in the background, he didn't shy away from showing the reality of the situation, his own vulnerability. It was raw, emotional, and incredibly effective.
Those videos weren't just for Ukrainians. They were shared, globally translated, and analyzed. Zelensky, the comedian, became Zelensky, the wartime leader in the eyes of the world. And while he was asking for help, he was also reminding everyone what was at stake. Democracy, freedom, the right of a nation to determine its own destiny. Powerful stuff.
It really was a masterclass in communication, especially in the digital age. He bypassed traditional media and spoke directly to the people, humanizing the conflict and forging a connection that transcended borders. That's something few world leaders have managed to achieve.
He was able to rally international support like we've rarely seen. Governments, organizations, and individuals all stepped up to help Ukraine in various ways. It was this incredible wave of global solidarity.
And he was right at the center of it, skillfully navigating the complex world of international diplomacy. He secured military aid, humanitarian assistance, and economic sanctions against Russia. Essentially, he turned Ukraine into a global cause, a symbol of resistance against authoritarianism.
To think this is the same man who was once making people laugh on stage begs the question, did his background in entertainment somehow prepare him for this?
It's an interesting question. He certainly understands the power of storytelling, how to connect with an audience, how to use media to his advantage. And these aren't just skills for actors or comedians. These are essential skills for any leader in today's world.
Especially when you're leading a nation at war, rallying international support, fighting for the survival of your country. It's as if those years in entertainment were almost a training ground for this moment.
It's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely a fascinating aspect of his story. You wouldn't necessarily expect a comedian to be the best wartime leader, but Zelensky has certainly challenged those preconceived notions.
He's shown the world that leadership isn't just about power or authority. It's about empathy, compassion, the ability to connect with people on an emotional level and inspire them to action.
As we follow his journey, it's crucial to remember that behind the geopolitical maneuvering, there's another story unfolding: the human cost of this war.
Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced from their homes. Cities and infrastructure lie in ruins. The economy has been devastated, and every day more lives are lost. The siege of Mariupol stands as a chilling reminder of the brutal realities of this conflict.
It's easy to get caught up in the political analysis, the military strategies, but we can't forget about the individuals whose lives have been irrevocably changed by this war.
We are apolitical, neither left nor right, and we're trying to reach as many people as possible. But we need your help. We want to improve our show and reach even more people. If you're enjoying this deep dive and want to support our work here at Standing in the Gaps News, we have a GoFundMe campaign going. It's aimed at upgrading our equipment. Think better webcams for those video segments, studio quality microphones to make our voices sound amazing and powerful, editing computers to bring it all together.
Every contribution helps us produce higher quality episodes, reach a wider audience, and ultimately share these important stories with more people. You can find the link to our GoFundMe in the show notes. We truly appreciate your support.
Have you ever dreamed of starting your very own podcast, but you don't know anything about computers, sharing your story, your passion, and your voice with the world? Well, look no further. At Standing in Your Podcast, we're here to make that dream a reality. From helping you set up professional-grade equipment to guiding you through recording, editing, and distributing your podcast, or if you don't want to do anything but talk, we've got you covered every step of the way. It doesn't matter if you're a complete beginner or ready to take your show to the next level. Our team is here to bridge the gap between your ideas and your audience. Plus, we'll get your podcast out to all the major platforms so your message can reach listeners everywhere. At Standing in Your Podcast, your voice matters, and we're here to amplify it. Visit standinginyourpodcast.com today to learn more and schedule your free consultation. The world is waiting to hear what you have to say. Let's make it happen together.
Now, before we continue exploring Zelensky's story, I'm curious to hear from you. What has stood out to you the most about his leadership?
It's truly fascinating to see how his unconventional background has played a role in shaping his leadership style. It's a reminder that leadership can come from unexpected places and that we shouldn't underestimate the power of communication, especially during times of crisis.
His ability to connect with people on an emotional level is undeniably powerful. He doesn't just talk about facts and figures, he speaks from the heart, and that resonates with audiences worldwide. The war in Ukraine is tragically ongoing. What are we seeing on the ground, and how has the conflict evolved?
Well, the war has entered this grueling phase, often referred to as a war of attrition. It's a brutal back and forth with neither side achieving a decisive victory. And the stalemate, has devastating consequences for the Ukrainian people.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to think about the ongoing suffering. Cities are still in ruins, a renewed focus on NATO, and heightened anxieties about global security. The war has raised many questions about the future of international relations and the rules-based order that has, at least in theory, governed the world for decades.
And then there's a humanitarian crisis. Millions have fled Ukraine, seeking refuge in neighboring countries, straining resources and testing international solidarity. The world is grappling with how to respond to this crisis effectively and compassionately.
It's a complex situation with no easy answers.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Zelensky's journey, what are your final thoughts?
Well, Zelensky has showed extraordinary strength and resilience, becoming a symbol of defiance against aggression. His leadership, though unconventional, has been impactful. He's rallied his people, galvanized international support, and challenged our assumptions about what it means to be a wartime leader.
It's a remarkable story of transformation. From comedian to president to wartime leader. Zelensky's path has been anything but predictable. As for Ukraine, the future remains uncertain. The war continues, and the outcome will have lasting consequences not only for Ukraine, but for the world.
The Ukrainian people have demonstrated incredible courage and determination in their fight for freedom and democracy. Their resilience in the face of unimaginable adversity is an inspiration.
And it's a stark reminder that freedom and democracy are not to be taken for granted. It's a call to action for all of us to stand up for what we believe in, support those fighting for their rights, and never give up hope for a better future.
Well said. It's a powerful message of resilience and determination.
Before we sign off, we want to extend a huge thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on this deep dive. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment. We love hearing your perspectives.
And if you're inspired to support our work here at Standing in the Gaps News, consider checking out our GoFundMe campaign. Your contributions help us upgrade our equipment, reach a wider audience, and continue bringing you these deep dives. You can find the link in the show notes.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep standing in the gaps.